Guys, we are back on the Iris Pod, and I'm excited to meet and to talk with Luigi Cosi of OIKLA, which is a fascinating technology which, to be honest, I've not fully grasped yet, and we're going to dig in. But Luigi, it's great to have you on the Iris Pod.
Thank you very much for having me, Tom.
Yeah.
It's amazing to be here.
We've been talking for a little while before we recorded this to get a sense of what Luigi and his company are doing, and I want to dig in.
Of course,
because
please.
I feel in some way what you're trying to do and what we're trying to do as Iris align very similar, in that we're trying to bring the essence and beauty of music and audio, heighten it.
Yep.
But this is where I'm going to ask the first question.
Please do.
Louder equals better in terms of what you hear, but also does a lot of damage.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Just to remind, like, if I have to think about all the time that I increased, the volume as a young DJ, and I pissed so many, like, I remember so many times my neighbor just knocking on my door and telling me, please lower the volume. I remember that so clearly. And the reason why we enjoy sound to be loud is because the frequency that we hear is much more enhanced at a high listening level compared to when it's at low listening levels. So it's only natural, and this happens unconsciously. Like, we don't realize this, but as soon as you start increasing the sound level, all of a sudden you're just increasing your perception of low and high frequencies. And this is a phenomenon. It's an old phenomenon. It's not something new. We know this from the Fletcher Manson, which is something that we discovered back in the 1930s. Not even radio was around back then, and we know already that our hearing behaves very differently based on how loud we listen to a specific sound. So essentially, the going from low to high, we just increase how much we get in terms of low and high frequencies. And what also happened in the last century is that technology allowed to essentially, the playback became so much better over the last century. If you look at the sound music production going from the 1930s to modern music, you can see that there's a lot more energy in the mid frequencies back in the days. And as we went ahead and we improved our technology became much better at reproducing low and high frequencies, and also much more powerful. And we can amplify things, we can amplify things to be super loud at this point. And not only that, we miniaturized that loudness and we put it right next to a small little headphones that we can wear 24/7. And thanks to the internet, we can blast our hearing 24/7 without anyone telling us anything. So we just got all the concert and we just put them back into our phone these days. You can just experience loud music anytime. And so that led to a massive problem. We have, according to WHO, we have 1.1 billion people risking hearing loss due to loud sound exposure in recreational settings. So, and then again, this is due to smartphone headphones becoming better over time. And another thing that happened also, so technology got better over time, and also the way we produce music or sound obviously changed, because now we can reproduce low and high frequency. And so because we lack perception in low and high frequencies, now the way we produce sound has changed. And so we put a lot more energy into those frequencies because we can reproduce them. So it's, in a way, what I'm trying to say is that this sort of, this trend is in a way killing our hearing, and we need to do something about it.
And that is what Oikler is all about. So tell us about you've got a lot of insight on this trend, but then this short-term benefit of it sounding incredible has a medium and longer-term effect on our health through our hearing. And actually, one of the key things about hearing is hearing connects us to the world around us. And if you lose your hearing, you suddenly become insulated. You can't, converse. And Oikler's on a mission to change this.
Yeah. On that note, we give for granted our hearing very often. We just don't think about it, and we don't realize how essential it is for our daily life, And so I think most people realize how important their hearing is once they actually lose it. And in my case, I got a taste of it back in 2015. So I moved to London in 2013, and I moved because I wanted to follow my passion for music and sound production. And so I started SE London, and as soon as I started the course, I started to get, you know, the ringing in my ear, which you usually get when you finish, you know, a concert. You go back home and you have this like ringing. Then in a couple of days, it's gone. My problem started when that never went away. I was like, what's happening? You know, this thing is never going away.
I have the same,
Right?
Exactly the same.
And so you go to the doctors, and obviously you find that there's really nothing you can do about it. It's just like, oh, you know, that's it. And then I was a little, you know, angry, because I was like, well, why did I not know about this? Why wasn't I aware that loud sound exposure would lead me to having hearing issues? And I just started university back then, and nobody told me that.
But you think you're invincible when you're young, right?
Of course, and you don't even care. I mean, that's also fact. You know, I think that if anybody told me, hey, you might risk your hearing loss, I'll be like, shut up, I'm gonna be fine. You know. So there's also that. But yeah, like I was just a little upset with that, and I didn't like the current solutions. The only solutions, well, what I've been told was just keep your levels down. But I was like, well, but if I keep my levels down, it's not gonna be as enjoying as if I keep my level highs. And as a music producer, engineers back then, I wanted to also perceive it loud at times. So I had this problem, like, how am I going to keep doing? How am I keep enjoying music if I have to keep it low? So the mission was, how can we make sound exciting but also safe? That was the question I asked myself. So I spent then a couple of years, you know, doing some research and development. Came up with some prototypes that were sort of successful already at uni, and also my lecturers were like, oh, this is great, you know. So that gave me confidence to continue. And after uni, I actually wanted to start a company right away, but I had absolutely zero experience, because I never really intended to open a company. My original plan was to be a music producer, you know. And so because I obviously needed money to start a company, I then had to raise investments. And so that's how you get into the startup world. So it was never planned. It's just one thing leading to the other thing. And so around 2018, we raised some investments. We were able to patent the technology and, you know, create our first prototype, and also the product that you saw, which is Shape, which is not the main product. It's only a spin-off of the main technology. So essentially what we do with our technology is first of all, we monitor your real-time sound level. And based on your real-time sound level, you can decide how loud you want to perceive something. So it could be, so you could, for example, say, I'm listening at 70 dB SPL, okay, which is within your safe range. But I want to perceive it as if it was played at 90 dB SPL, which will be already, you know, in the danger zone. And what our technology does is essentially understand what your level is, understands where you want to be, and shape the whole frequency spectrum so that you have the same frequency response that you will have at higher listening levels. And it does this continuously, you know, in real time, so that it makes you feel as if you were playing it louder, but it's actually just a couple dBs louder. Sorry, maybe this is a little bit confusing. Sorry.
So is this doing this in an app? Is it?
At the moment we have it as a standalone for your computer. It's not on an app.
Yeah.
And it's designed.
We have the same challenges. It's hard to get something on a mobile device in the iOS.
Because the problem is that then you need to get permission from Spotify and the app to allow you to process their audio. Yeah. For, like, I understand the reasons, you know, you can use malicious software to copy and, you know, the music, and understand all of that. But the easiest way to market for us is to create a software that you can install on your PC or Mac, and process whatever audio you're processing. And at the moment we are aiming mostly for sound engineers, for professionals, because we always thought, where do we go first? We go for consumers or we go for professionals? But to advertise something, you know, to sell to consumers is
hard.
You need to
we know that
you need to have big budgets.
You have to have a big budget.
And so what we thought is, let's go for the professionals, because they are the ones we know best, and they're probably the one that will understand this the most.
So the professionals, the engineers, you know, and Rob Wren kindly gave you an explainer of
course.
the Irish, you know, essence of what our purpose is, and
which is amazing, by the way.
Thank you. You know, and it's a hard fight in this industry to prove something differentiated, right?
Yeah.
So how's that experience been? Because sometimes the engineers, the producers, and so forth are the biggest critics of change in this space. You know, there's a lot of built up knowledge, legacy of, you know, expertise in this space, and any change, from my experience coming from outside the music world initially, is that there's a lot of resistance to something that's different.
Absolutely. I think it's both good and bad. So the good is that you know, it keeps the sort of the bad technologies, I guess, away, and it's like a test, right? If you pass the test, then you got the approval, right? And that's probably the good thing. The bad thing is that it makes our life much harder, I guess.
Tell me about it.
Makes our life much harder. So I remember giving this, you know, I wouldn't call it a lecture, but I was a guest lecturer at a university, and I remember, you know, talking about the way we process audio and the way we try to fight and prevent hearing loss while making the whole experience exciting. And I remember like a couple of students were like raising the question, you know, but this is going to, you know, sort of change the quality of the audio. And I said, you're actually right. There's, you know, I think you're absolutely right. But I also said, do you listen to lossless files all the time? Do you use Spotify? Do you listen to Netflix? Do you watch things on Netflix? Like, yes, well, that's an MP3. So if the purpose is if I have to decide between the purpose of hearing safety and maybe sacrificing, although I don't think I sacrifice any quality, but if I have to sacrifice between, I would rather sacrifice quality for a bit of safety.
Do you think the world's kind of moved forward towards that? Because certainly when we started Iris back in, you know, tail end of 2018, and moved forward on this incredible journey, you know, and we talked about it just before, I think people are much more tuned into well-being, even versus 2018, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that trend is going to continue and enable people to pay more attention to hearing? Because I don't think it is one. People think about what they put in their body in terms of what they eat and maybe what they drink, the sleep that they get, having a moment for meditation and relaxation. But maybe they're not thinking about the earbuds that they stick in their ear every day.
Well, the thing is, if we don't act on it, we're going to find ourselves against the wall. Like, imagine if we have 1 billion people risking severe hearing loss and we don't do anything. It's either we realize it or we're just going to find ourselves with a generation of impaired, you know, people that cannot really hear well. So it's either one or the other. So I guess there's the trend where people are, you know, more cautious about, well, they pay more attention to, as you were saying, about the lifestyle and how they relate to technology as well. So I definitely see that happening. But at the same time, it's our duty as your
innovators
in company to, you know, raise awareness as much as we can, because you know, in the next 30 years we might end up with this big issue. You know, we have millions of people that, you know, cannot hear enough or well.
And the world's moving more virtual. We're consuming more content in this way. Something quite fascinating is the difference between, and you said it, it's exactly the same rhetoric that we say, difference between seeing something and hearing something. You said, you know, 4K, 8K screens. And let's take a video call that we might do with colleagues around the world or whatever. If the video disappears, that's one thing, right? You can't see people. If the audio disappears, the meeting's over.
Yeah, absolutely.
The content, the essence of the communication is in the words that we hear and that we
produce
relate.
Sound, right? And we decode sound into meaning and we can communicate to each other. Although I'm Italian, so I move my hands a lot. So, so you no, but yeah, I agree, of course. As you're saying, like, speech is essential and hearing is essential. I mean, it's a wireless technology, right? I can communicate with you with any cables. I can just emit some sound and you can understand it, and vice versa. If we stop one end, which is hearing, then the whole thing just drops. And sometimes you find yourself like, sometimes I find myself just, we have so many ways of communicating these days. There's Discord, Slack,
I'm not
Google,
very good on Slack.
Google,
That's not one of my strong ones.
No, like Google Meet or Zoom. There's so many.
Yeah, there's a proliferation.
There's so many, and sometimes I find myself that going back to an old phone call is all I need.
Yeah.
And all it matters. It's an old-fashioned, maybe low quality but reliable way of communicating.
Yeah.
And I also find that, on a personal note, that video calls sometimes can be distracting, right? Because you're not paying attention to what they're saying, but you're also seeing, or you need to pay attention to the way they're seeing you.
Yes.
And I think I watched a podcast of a scientist, I don't remember exactly now, saying that essentially you're more productive when you just have, voice call rather than video call.
Well, I mean, it's kind of part of the essence of what our latest product is about, because the productivity on those virtual meetings and communications in general is impaired by distraction. At the end of the day, any distraction that takes us away from the essence and content that we're trying to convey to one another is something that makes us less productive, less focused. And background noise is one component, but
Absolutely.
Bad Wi-Fi connection or crackly line or whatever it is, they all contribute to something that's suboptimal.
And also like having video on top of it, just further reduce the bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
Which is not really that needed at certain, like, especially if you're working, like, or if you just need information, then voice is all you need, really.
Where do you stand on, we saw a bit of a drive towards, you mentioned lossless formats.
Like WAV file.
Back to, because really audio took a bit of a strange journey, didn't it? Whereas visual technologies went like this, higher fidelity, the audio formats kind of went backwards.
It's interesting.
What's your perspective?
I mean, to me it's a little crazy, right? Because we can stream 4K videos on YouTube. Although they're compressed, okay, whatever, but it's still like a lot of data, but we still have MP3.
So why do we put up with that? I don't understand that.
Well, I guess the reason is that, partially is that I think that people cannot hear the difference between MP3 and WAV anymore.
Right.
So MP3 got so better at that people just don't hear the difference, I guess. So I think that's the main reason at this point. I mean, probably 10, 15 years ago, you can still like the different, there was bad MP3 around.
Yeah.
I just don't, I think, if I have to be, if I have to say my opinion is that just MP3 just got to a point where it's indistinguishable for most people, for everyday for everyday media or anything like that. Obviously, if you talk to a professional, then they will probably hear the difference between MP3 and lossless file and WAV.
The golden
but it's a small minority, right?
Yeah.
It's a small minority, and thank God we had MP3, right? Because MP3 allowed us to actually stream audio, and if we had big files back then, we wouldn't be able to. As much as we do now. Yeah. So I think it was a curse and a good thing at the same time.
And a blessing. Most things are double-edged. Yeah, most things are double-edged like that. Yeah, the golden ears kind of can tell the difference, but the general public, it's just something where they want to get access to more content quicker, less cost, therefore
exactly
the format works.
Exactly.
So Oikler, is this something that's built into the production of content? Is this a post-production?
So,
where
it's a very good
is
question.
It sitting in the chain?
That's a very good question, actually. So, because there are different components to our technology. The first is, hearing prevention, which is, letting you perceive something louder without actually being louder. Where it sits, it can be directly on, if we're talking like for professional now, it can sit between for example, your DAW, digital audio workstation. And so DAW, our software, and then the output to your speakers or headphones, right? So it's in between. Or it can sit directly on the master bus of your DAW, which is the last step before going to the main output, your audio system, right? So that's where it can stand. However, we feel that in order for this to become a standard, which is probably something that you probably guys are looking into, it's not necessarily to sell, products to engineers or to professionals in the industry, but it's rather to have this technology directly embedded into platforms such as Spotify, Unreal Engine, Unity, where it's already built in. I mean, our mission really is to be as invisible as possible, right? We don't want to even we don't want the final users to even know that we exist. We just want to be sitting somewhere in the chain where audio is processed, you're not aware of it, and you just get the result. That's really the aim. So as I was saying, so at the beginning is about for us selling products, and we will start like that, but we will aim at having this embedded into platforms so that the final user can get pristine and amazing experience without even thinking about all the installing and doing this and doing that. That it's never going to become a standard like that. How can you change a billion people behavior by selling one small billion products? It's pretty much impossible.
Well, I mean, it's almost like we've got the same pitch pack.
I swear I didn't check anywhere.
No, it's true, because it's that beauty of being zero friction, improving the experience,
absolutely,
improving the well-being, and also, in our core technologies, this activation of your neurology is crucial. So the activation of the neurology and the reduction in the potential for hearing damage, these are symbiotic things.
And let me expand a little bit on the standard. What I mean by standard. What I mean by standard is more about the making audio exciting. And what I mean by it is that what we would like to get to a point where, as a game designer, right, you can decide how, for example, an explosion should sound like. So I would like my explosion to sound like 100 dB SPL or more. Okay. So as a game designer, I embed in the sound engine that we're developing, I would just say, okay, this explosion should sound like 100 dB. And so what happens on the end user, based on their current listening level and based on the metadata that the producer decided that should sound like 100 dB or whatever, then the audio is processed according to the specifications made during the production stages. So that as a user, I would get the full experience as the producer intended at whatever listening level I'm listening at. And so we actually tested this. We had a full video game clip. We built all the sound design and music, and we put all our technology on every single sound by specifying, okay, this should sound like this. And we ran the whole experience, and we gave it to 115 people. And we asked them which one they preferred without telling them which one was with and without our technology. And the results were quite impressive, because 85% of them said they obviously enjoyed a lot more the processed version, and they didn't need to increase sound levels. Whereas when they were listening to the original one, they were not as happy or as immersed, and they needed to increase sound levels.
So Oikler could sit in the audio engine of the game, or in the game, or in the
gaming
console?
engine, in the gaming engine, and also on the console, because we will need to a factor that is very important to us is that we need to know your real-time sound levels.
So you're playing, I mean, I'm terrible at any of these games, but let's say Call of Duty.
Oh yeah, amazing. Yeah,
I'm really bad.
Me too.
I got it when the lockdown happened, just because I needed something to do.
Right.
And terrible. Like, I was getting abused by 9-year-old kids, like in France or in Italy, saying like, "Get back in the fight," because I'm just like rubbish and shooting into it. Anyway, that's a side point. That explosion happens, and you can penetrate the explosion as a peak in perceived volume for the experience to hit me.
Well, yeah.
But in reality, that is not penetrating my hearing in terms of the actual mechanics.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
That is in a nutshell what we do. So we make sound in a way more realistic. Because obviously you don't want to play back a real explosion with the same volume as an explosion. You will blow up your ear. First of all, we don't have the technology to do that. Likely we don't have that technology. But if we had, we wouldn't want to play an explosion sound as if it was like a real explosion, right?
Yeah.
Will be dangerous. So we need to trick the brain into maybe, thinking that is louder than it is. And we can, it's not just the louder, but we can say, okay, 95 or 96, 110, we can change that. And that was actually the reason why we got our main endorser on board. So we just shot an endorsement video last week, and it wasn't necessarily sold on the music side of things. It was sold on the gaming demo. And he said, "Oh, this is amazing. If I could play games like this, it would be better." And I would say another. How can I say? Another good thing about the technology is that allows you to be more precise, to understand better where things are coming to you, especially if you're in a game like
a spatial component.
Spatial component.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we can dig in more to this, but
we can dig in as much as you want. I'm fascinated. What about one of the challenges that we have is the processing component to this. What about the overhead on CPU and there's a lot of competing requirements going on there to stream in 4K
and the audio always gets to the minimal, right?
And the audio is always the last, right? To get we got so many conversations going on with clients. So is this just eating CPU? What's going on?
So at the beginning, yes. The first iterations were like super expensive in terms of CPU. It was like, oh my God, it's taking everything from my laptop. It's absolutely not usable.
Yeah.
But then, thank God, we have a good developer. Shout out Ragnar. And he worked very hard to minimize the CPU usage to the point where we can run hundreds of instances of the same algorithm on hundreds of channels in real time, and he would use minimal CPU. And I'm sure that we can go even further with other technologies by exploring. But yes, it does eat up a little bit of CPU, way less than it used to be. It can be used already on hundreds of channels at the same time, and like in real time. But I'm not sure we are maybe there when it comes to maybe an Unreal Engine type of thing that where your resources are so limited.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does. I mean, we're using F50 and impulse responses and stuff like that. They are generally quite intense in terms of CPU. And I'm also curious, how do you have zero latency and all of that?
On the same journey, and I am by no means the technical wizard here, Rob.
But it's pretty impressive to read that, that you do everything in real time.
We do everything in real time. So Rob and his, shout out like you, to the team of engineers, incredible engineers that we have. We have a team here in the UK. We have a machine learning specialist in South Korea.
Nice.
We have a fantastic team of engineers on the Windows product side in
Wow.
the Ukraine. They're actually in the Ukraine. So
amazing.
And fantastic that they're just running through walls for us in the middle of one of the most traumatic zones that they could possibly be on the planet. So massive shout out to those guys.
And it's also good that you employ and you still provide
exactly
jobs over there.
Exactly. So and it's through that hard graft, and of course your friend Devin.
Oh yeah, of course.
On the Mac side. So it's fantastic, really, that team have pursued exactly the same path as you. It started out and it was, cripplingly expensive in terms of CPU, and then you work hard to reduce it, both in terms of the CPU, but also the latency. And ultimately, if you're under, 80 milliseconds, that's regarded as something like,
that would be great.
Imperceptible.
Yeah.
So we're at, I think, sub 30.
Oh, nice.
So,
very nice.
Incredible performance from the team. CPU now is at 1.2% of
that's
of
okay.
CPU.
That's okay. And also we have M1 Mac now, so they can afford. We can afford
it.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our customers are on legacy machines. So one of our
that's me.
Big clients is the call center industry. A lot of that is legacy machines, Windows machines. So we have to work hard to get that. So it's the same journey that you guys and us have been on to perfect, iterate, and improve the product. And that's great thing with a startup, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, it took so long to. I remember when I think we misunderstood. Well, we thought that the job would have been much easier because I prototyped the whole technology in Pure Data, which is a visual programming language, and then I had to find someone that was proficient in C++ to take my sketch and put into something that would be commercially viable. And at the beginning, we thought it was going to be ready in 2 months, and then it took like a year and a half, just of continuously, refining, testing problems, refining and testing, and all of that. But it is also exciting in a way. Like, obviously, I would have liked that to be ready in 2 months, but
of course,
but it's not how it works.
Exactly, it never works like that, and that's just the hard yards you have to go, and it makes it all the sweeter when you do. We onboarded our first major client in the last week. We've got many clients, but
in the last week.
In the last week,
Oh, nice.
And that those wins make all of that graft so much, so worth it. And it's exciting journey, hard, stressful, but also it's important, and you can see you just exude this passion for the subject matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started selling our first product we just finished last month. We started selling.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was. As an entrepreneur, as an inventor, and all of that, you are very attached to your product, and it's never good enough.
No.
But at times you need to sort of say, okay, this is good enough. We can actually start selling.
And actually, that's a key point, and we talk about this podcast really is the intersect between technology, audio, and business, and we're talking about all of those things right now. So, who do you surround yourself with as a founder to help you not just deliver a product, but also the commerciality? Because it's important to surround yourself, as we do, with experts, right, and people you can trust.
So I was lucky to join a startup accelerator called The Rattle. They are sort of underground, but and yet, one of them is John Aids, which is the former manager at Abbey Road Rad.
Oh, really?
Right.
There you go.
And then there's Chris and Nick. They all have background in startups and technology, and when I joined them, my prototype, or the software that I had, wasn't. I mean, it's sort of ready, but it's not commercially available. We can't really sell it because the user experience is very hard at the moment. So only geeky people could actually, very nerdy people could use it. And I say with no offense whatsoever.
No, we love them.
I am one of them. But when I met them, they're like, well, you don't have, this thing is not ready, and you might not have the budget to push this. Why don't you make this into a smaller product that uses the same technology? And you start selling it maybe to engineers and people around you. And at first I was a little resistant, but they actually made it made a lot of sense, because that allowed me to focus on something viable, something that I could do and I could actually sell, and I could prove that there's a market for it, right? Because it's such a good feeling when you make your first sale. It's like, of course. Oh wow, people actually would buy it. Oh my god. I mean, it's you can give it could be given for granted in the future, but like when you made your first sale, you're like, oh, okay, it's not all in my head.
Exactly.
Some people,
this is real.
People find value, and it was so amazing to see people getting back to me with, oh, I was waiting for something like this for so long, or this is amazing. I think I hope more engineers would jump on board on this. And you're like, oh, okay, so I'm not, after all, the crazy, founder who with crazy ideas. There's some people that value what we are doing here.
Yeah.
But so going back to your question, is I surround myself with these people, and I have a phenomenal guy from called Fabio, which is in Spain, and he's sort of my right hand. And sometimes he has to listen to my stupid things, and stupid complaining about things. You also need to externalize your emotions in a way, right? Oh, things aren't going bad, or things are going well. You need someone that can tame you and also push you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And also have a Roberto, which is a phenomenal financial guy from, well, he's Italian, but he lives in France. And I was very lucky. I met him while doing martial arts, and because we love martial arts. And somehow over the years, he liked my mission mostly, and he decided to jump on board, and he's helping me with, investments, making introductions and all of that. So I have a wide range of, and also family, of course, like
Of course.
my brother, but I try to surround myself with people in the industry, like the Rato that knows the industry, people that are close to the project, like Fabio in Spain, and also professionals in the money business.
In the money business, I mean, you have to be humble, you have to be low ego in this space, you have to share with those trusted partners and use them as a sounding board, and if you find your people, then you're in good shape, right, to navigate those challenges. Luigi, we've got to wrap it up. I could talk with you for hours.
It's already been half an hour.
It's been, I think, even more like 45 minutes.
Really?
There's a clock there which I sneakily look at every so often. But I think we should do V2 of this. My final question, we had Mike Sponza from M Cube. I don't know if you know M Cube. He's also an Italian gentleman, very lively. You both have way better hair than me. And he was talking about audio as an extension of the brand. And how audio can be an experience in retail, not just the visuals or whatever, and multi-sensory. Talk to me about what the ultimate sonic experience means to you. What's the beauty of audio in everything that we experience in life?
Let's just take an example that most Mac users know, right? When you turn on the
oh, that was a terrible,
that
one. I did a terrible example of it, but yeah.
Boo, like, if I play the sound to you without anything, you would recognize the brand, right? So,
not from my example, but yes.
So I guess, of course, like, sound is the thing that gets you, even though we don't realize it's the thing that gets you the most. For example, one of my other project is also, which is on the side right now, but it's, I developed a project which is reading to sound experience, where you can synchronize sound based on where you're reading. And so the idea back then was to trigger sound at the right time. So as you're reading the story, right, you get to the gun who's firing the shots, you just hear the shots, bang, 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 right at the right time. And so by reading and doing research, what I found is that sound actually is processed even faster than anything else in your brain, right? So if I play a shotgun and I made you read it's something that resembled that sound, your brain would understand faster with sound than with actually you reading or seeing it. So I think that we are made to prioritize sound as the first thing, and then everything else is sort of, don't get me wrong, sight is very important, but like hearing is the first thing that we reach out when it comes to understanding information. And that is also the same thing that animals uses, right? For example, when lions need to attack someone, they use sort of like short bark sound to organize, to tell themselves where they are around. So sound is somehow very important to us, and it's obviously being used as a way to brand anything. And as I said, the clear example is the turning on and off, turning on mostly Mac, I guess. Sorry, maybe I deviated a lot.
No, that is literally the origins of this company. And I really do feel like, you've already seen our slide pack.
Sorry?
I feel like you've already seen our PowerPoint presentation.
No,
No, I'm joking. Because it's so true. When we're in our mother's womb, you can hit the sound frequency is the first thing that you experience. So absolutely. It makes complete sense that it would be the center of our worldly experience. Luigi, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you.
Thank
For
you very
people
much.
who want to get in touch with you at Oikler, they can go to oikler.com.
Yes.
And we'll put that on the screen somewhere. It's OIKLA.
OIKLA, yes.
.com. And they can come and find you on various forms of social media, right?
LinkedIn, you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram. But yeah, I would say the website is probably the best way to reach out to us, I guess. And try our product.
Try the product. And I tell you where else they're going to be able to reach out to you, and that's on this podcast again, because we need to repeat this and do more.
Please,
dig
let's
in.
do it.
All right. Thank you,
very
Luigi.
much.
Everyone, thank you for tuning in to the latest Irish pod with Luigi Cosi. We'll see you again soon. Bye.